Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, here breaking down yesterday's preseason win over the Houston Texans, and I do want to go over some winners and some losers from yesterday's game, and then also start off here talking about J.J. McCarthy. Now, before we dive into it, if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. Football is back. Kind of. I don't know, some of these preseason games get a little ugly, but at least we get to talk about real football. No more BS rumors, no more, reckless speculation. We get to talk about some Minnesota Vikings real action here. So hit that subscribe button today. We'll be posting multiple videos a day throughout the entire regular season. So don't miss a thing. We're just only a couple weeks away from week 1 versus the Chicago Bears. So hit that subscribe button. And if you guys are already subscribed, just give me a skull down below in the comments section. So let's start off here talking about J.J. McCarthy. He's kind of getting the pulse of the fan base on Twitter, in the comment sections. People have mixed feelings about his, preseason debut. Some people thought he looked pretty bad. Some people thought he looked pretty good. I'm kind of in between. There was some good and some bad. Now, I think 2 plays that really stood out the most was one good play was the Jordan Addison 18-yard route. It was a great anticipation throw. He was already releasing it before Addison was even coming out of his break, and he also had pressure in his face, so he didn't really, he didn't panic, and he just stayed strong in the pocket, delivered a absolute rifle to Addison, and that's the arm talent that we have seen throughout the entire training camp. Now, also the bad, we talk about J.J. McCarthy's sailing passes, which, was an issue during training camp so far. It was another 3rd and 4 situation. Lucky Jackson running just a simple in-breaking route, and J.J. threw it about 5 yards over his head. And I think consistency is going to be an issue this year, and that's why we all need to be patient. He's 22 years old. I think he's going to show some things early on in the season that's going to be very positive, but he's also going to show some things we're going to be saying, man, we need to give this guy some time. But also I love that after that 3rd and 4 pass that he sailed, he was able to lock back in. Vikings ended up going for it on 4th and 4. Texans brought the house, and we saw his athletic ability. He was able to escape the pocket, go around the right edge, and pick up the first down with his legs. But I think it's just going to be an up and down start to the season, and that's why if you're the Vikings and why they invested so much in, the offensive line and the defensive line this offseason is you are hoping that the rest of the team can kind of man the ship a little more and, carry JJ for the first couple of months of the season. Then hopefully we're talking about JJ when he's got a lot more reps, a lot more experience, where it's December, football rolls around. It's like, okay, he's finally hitting his stride. He looks like a legit NFL guy. How good is that? How high is his ceiling? We'll have to wait and find out. But I think the defense and the running game, especially early on in the season, they're going to have to carry JJ a little bit because there are going to be ups, there are going to be downs. But I don't really have too big of takeaways from just one drive. It was only 12 plays. I wish KOC would have played him maybe the whole first quarter. I was a little shocked he didn't, but also I totally get it from his side. The dude tore his meniscus last preseason. I'm sure Kevin O'Connell was even scared putting him out there for one drive yesterday. But, some good, some bad. And I think the next time we'll see this guy play is week 1, Monday night in his hometown against the Chicago Bears. And that's going to be awesome. But we will also get a great look at JJ this week. Joint practices against the Patriots this Wednesday and Thursday. But let's dive into some winners and losers here. Quickly, 2 guys on the first team offense. I don't even know why I'm calling Jordan Addison a winner because he didn't really shock me at all because this is just what we expect from him. Had 2 unreal catches, super smooth getting out in and out of his routes yesterday. And, it was funny, the entire offseason, like even dating back to OTAs, any viral clip JJ have of tossing a bomb to a wide receiver, it would always be Jordan Addison. Now, a lot of that is because Jefferson has been out there dealing with that hamstring injury, but I think that connection they have is starting to build, and he's still one of the better wide receiver 2s in the league. It's going to be a little unfortunate how the Vikings manage him being suspended 3 games, considering Rondale Moore. I'm just waiting on that update today about him possibly being out for the entire season. Very disappointing stuff, but now you got to look at a 3rd-round rookie Ty Felton. Jalen Naylor is going to have a massive first month of the season, or even a guy like Lucky Jackson could potentially get some good, rotational reps for this Vikings wide receiver room. But Addison looked good. Unfortunately, we won't see him until the Vikings take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Ireland. But also Jordan Mason, he was out there yesterday. Thought he looked pretty solid. He is such a physical running back. He falls forward every single time. And I know the Vikings, they've already pretty much come out and said it's going to be a 50-50 split, which I agree, but I also think once December rolls around, I think Jordan Mason, it might be a little more, 60% Mason, maybe even 70% Mason, and Aaron Jones is more of that third down scat back for the Minnesota Vikings. But I think both those guys look good. And another running back that was getting a lot of run with the 2s and 3s yesterday is Xavier Scott. And this also ties into a loser for me, which is unfortunate for me to say since I'm a Ty Chandler stan. But I think Ty Chandler it's more likely than not he's not going to make the team. And that's because also Xavier Scott looked pretty damn good yesterday. Very physical runner. And if you compare what he did yesterday to Ty Chandler, I just feel like Chandler's got no juice. Can't really set up his blocks too well. He's not the most athletic guy at the running back position. He's obviously not the most physical runner. And I just think the Vikings, clearly they didn't trust him the past 2 seasons. Because what did the Vikings do at the trade deadline? Back-to-back years. They traded for a guy like Cam Akers when they already had Ty Chandler in the building. So I think he'll probably end up getting cut, and Xavier Scott will take his spot. Also, I thought Xavier Scott yesterday, his vision was fantastic. So a lot of credit to him. He's also got sweet hair. He's got like the Troy Polamalu look going. So I thought he showed some flashes yesterday. And then how about UDFA from 2 years ago? Started off his college football career at North Texas, then transferred to UCLA. Gabriel Murphy. Now, I think it was so clear how high this Vikings coaching staff was on him because the guy was injured all last year as a UDFA, but they still kept him around. And yesterday he had 2 sacks, got home to the quarterback, had a nasty dip move going around the Texans' backup left tackle. And, obviously he's not going to, get a ton of reps this year. I'll be shocked if you see him on the field really at all just because of how stacked the Vikings are at the edge rusher position. But, maybe down the line in 2-3 years from now when Van Ginkel may not be there, could it be a little Gabe Murphy, Dallas Turner? Still got Jonathan Gennard. Maybe that could be your 3-headed monster at the edge rusher position, but still good to see him show some flashes yesterday. And another wide receiver who something about the Vikings and these wide receivers with the last name Jackson showing off in the preseason. We had Tristan Jackson last year, and now we got Lucky Jackson. He had an unbelievable catch yesterday. He was running a corner route. Howell kind of threw it behind him, so he had to stop on a dime, and he just rose up over a DB, made a very athletic play. He also got open on the one ball that J.J. McCarthy sailed over his head. He had a nasty route there, and if J.J. probably hits him in stride, he had the chance to take that to the end zone. So he was showing some flashes, and like we were saying, now with Rondell Moore hurt and Addison suspended for the first 3 games, thank God you have Justin Jefferson just because it makes everybody's life in that wide receiver room easier. But guys are going to have to step up. Jalen Naylor, Lucky Jackson, Ty Felton. Somebody is going to have to really take the reins. And I think that's why these next 2 preseason games, maybe you don't throw Naylor out there just because he's pretty much proven in the system. But Ty Felton, Lucky Jackson, even a Silas Bolden is going to have to make some plays. So pretty encouraging, though. And Lucky's probably a lock to make the roster now. We thought he was a bubble guy, but now with this Rondell Moore injury, I think it's more likely than not he's going to make the team. Now, I actually thought both backup quarterbacks, besides Brett Rippon, looked pretty good yesterday. I thought Sam Howell, and maybe it's just because I had super low expectations for Howell since all the reports we were getting from camp was that just the Vikings defense was just giving him an incredibly, incredibly hard time. But he looked pretty good. 11-13, just over 100 yards, showed some command of the offense. And, Howell does have a little arm talent. He had a couple throws yesterday where you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I see why the Vikings had some interest in him. But also, how about Max Brosmer, Golden Gophers legend? Now, I didn't know if all the hype that people were having over Max Brosmer was just because he's a Minnesota guy, but he looked pretty good. Kevin O'Connell said he is the smartest person he has ever been around in the National Football League, and that's just another one of those KOC quotes. It was kind of in the same boat of when Kevin O'Connell called Johnny Munt the best tight end 3 in NFL history. Kind of similar vibe when he was talking about Brosmer there, but he looked pretty good. He had that 1 touchdown pass. He got to like his 4th read, and that was also the play before Dante Fleming dropped the wide open touchdown. That was another good ball by Mad Max, but he got to his 4th read on this throw to Miles Price back in the end zone. It was on an absolute line. So maybe we were considering it being a QB2 battle between Howell and Rippon, but Rippon looked pretty bad yesterday. Howell looked good, and now with Brosmer playing his ass off, maybe we got a little QB3 battle there with Brosmer and Rippon. But I'm assuming, again, like I was saying at the top of the show, we won't see J.J. McCarthy again in the preseason unless it goes terrible in the joint practices against New England, and Kevin O'Connell's just like, you just need more reps, man. But again, he's already kind of hinted that he's going to be put on ice until week 1. So we'll see a lot of Howell. We'll see a lot of Brosmer, a lot of Brett Rippon. And at least the backup quarterbacks aren't absolutely terrible, because I felt so bad for the Houston Texans yesterday. Graham Mertz, 3 fourth-quarter interceptions. They literally couldn't do anything at all offensively because the quarterback play was so bad. So at least the Vikings have some stability with the 3 backups here, even though Brett Rippon didn't look his best. But I do want to talk about some losers, and I already kind of teased it. Ty Chandler, I just think he's probably on the outside looking in when this final 53-man roster gets released. Obviously you're going to have Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones at the running back spot. CJ Ham's a lock to make it. Then I think they're going to give the nod to Xavier Scott. Now, they even tried the experiment of Ty Chandler being a kick returner last year. He was back there again yesterday. Just really doesn't have too much juice. And he's terrible in blitz pickup, and KOC's talked about that. That's a huge part of his game he needs to improve. And he really hasn't done it. I mean, this coaching staff clearly doesn't trust him. And I think the Ty Chandler era with the Minnesota Vikings will come to an end. I will say one little negative about the first team, and I just didn't have a specific player for this loser, but sloppy offensive line play from the first team. I understand you don't have Christian Darrisaw, but you still had 4 of your 5 starters out there: Jackson, Kelly, Fries, and Brian O'Neill. Kelly and Fries, the Texans, their backups were running just a stunt concept. And it was just miscommunication. Guy came in free. Now, luckily, that was the 4th and 4 play where J.J. McCarthy was able to use his legs, get outside the pocket. But I thought stuff like that wouldn't be an issue because, a big reason why I love the Vikings offseason additions of Kelly and Fries is, obviously offensive line play. It's huge on chemistry. It's huge on continuity. And those guys are already playing with each other in Indianapolis. I thought stuff like that really wouldn't have been an issue, but it was yesterday. Again, it's just one play. It's preseason football, but also Donovan Jackson tripped on Ryan Kelly's foot 2 times yesterday, and Brian O'Neill, he looked pretty solid, but he even got beat once by a backup Texans edge rusher. So understand you don't have Christian Darrisaw, but still, especially that interior. Again, it's all new. We're going to have 4 new offensive linemen to the left of Brian O'Neill. It's going to take some time. But I just thought they would have been just looked a little more crisp out there yesterday. But those are my final thoughts on the Vikings preseason win over the Houston Texans. No huge takeaways from yesterday's game. I wish JJ would have got a little more run, but hey, next time we see him will be Monday night in Chicago taking on the division rival Chicago Bears. So appreciate all of you guys watching. Again, hit that subscribe button on your way out. As always, let's go Vikes.